Now we shall move our focus of attention on how can we compare the situations of hand labor versus the steam power. How did the hand power, people's power, got replaced with the machinery power? As we discussed or highlighted the points in the previous chapter, that the point of interestedness towards the machinery was very low, which was analyzed by the historians in the previous chapter. They gave more importance for crafted skilled persons and not for the machinery, though the machinery has brought in down the number of the employed to a very low level, but most of the industrialist people did not show much interest to go for the mechanization rather than going to employ more number of people. And now, as the situations changed, the agriculture proved to be a disaster because of the lack of the rains, lack of the infrastructure problem like the canal, water. All these things proved agriculture to come down in the production, which resulted the people to move out in search of jobs. So during this time in Britain, in America and in Australia, there was no shortage of human hands available for them to hire for their industries, because thousands of people moved from villages to the towns and from towns to the cities. The cities were overwhelmed with the population of the people coming daily into the city. Now the industrialist people, factory workers, owners decided not to go for giving upgrading of the machinery, but let us hire people according to their requirements and finish the work done with a very low possible cost. Because if you want to buy machinery, you need to put investment in lakhs of rupees. Instead of that, you can hire people seasonally and make lot amount of work with very less amount of investment on that. So with this ideology, they went ahead and there was no shortage of human labor for them, and during this time there was no proper employment opportunities also for the people who moved on from villages to cities. So there were many seasonal works available for them like the gas works, breweries, book binding, catering during the season of Christmas, and also hand labor products. So the one more reason why the industrialist or the factory employee owners like to have more number of skilled workers rather than machines is that the people in Great Britain, like the aristocrat group or the bourgeois group, would love to have the products which are made by the human hands. Those are considered as the finest one according to them. So they produce nearly 500 types of hammers and 45 types of axes which are made by the human hands. So the machines were not used during that time to produce the antique pieces. So you may get a fundamental doubt. Then does they really do not use machines at all? I just mentioned very clearly the aristocrat group and the bourgeoisie were having a fashion or interest to have handmade goods, but not for the other categories of people. So only to fulfill the needs of the aristocrats and the other group who are interested to have the handmade goods, those people were encouraged with the 500 types of hammers and 45 types of axes, while the machines are used to produce uniform works like clothing or anything which is required for the abroad market for them. They used to export all the machinery products to other countries to earn more profits. And let us move on to the category of handmade goods to the other things now. How is the situation of the worker during this period of time? The worker's life was very critical and crucial during this period of time. As we discussed just now, the cities were overwhelmed and tramped with the overpopulation which is moving on or migrating into the city. As the cities got the migration of the people in very large number, providing accommodation for them also is a very difficult task. So the cities, the people finding a job has also become a tough task for them. If you want to get a job in any of the factories, you need to have your friend or your kin working in the factory who can identify you and mention you to the particular person who is in charge of the factory. Then it would be very easy for you to get a job inside. In case if you don't have any relative or any friend working there, then it may take weeks or months for you to get into the industry. And when the people are not having any jobs, there is no possibility of taking any kind of houses for rent or staying in a good location. And during that time, many thousands of people used to sleep in the gardens, where outside of the houses, on the streets, in the night. So there was no other place for them to stay. So these are some of the miserable conditions which are experienced by the workers during that time. So if you have your friend or your relative, it would be very easy for you to find a job in the company. And the work was also in the factories is only seasonal. Seasonal work means you have a work for a specific period of time only. Afterwards, you do not have that particular work under your name, because the necessity or the demand for the product comes down during that period. As we discussed before, we have the seasonal works available. Gas and the breweries work are available during the time of winter season. Repairing of the ships was also done during the time of winter, because in winter the entire water gets stagnant because of the extreme cold climatic conditions in Britain. So they would like to prefer do more number of repair works or the pending works during that period, because of the less vessel activity into the ocean during that time. And then we also have bulk of orders coming for Christmas to make the cakes, as it is a festive season for them. They need more number of hands during that period. So like that, basing on the season, basing on the requirement, the people used to get their jobs. And coming to the topic of wages increase, though the wages are increased in the early part of the 19th century, but later on we don't find any other possibility where the wages were increased to the workers who are working in the factories. It was very difficult for the workers to find their increase in the wages. Though it is increased also, it is in very less number, because there is no stable timeline for them to work. Seasonal works are more, and during the Napoleon Wars time, the products cost used to go up, so the income whatever they are getting could not suffice that one. And nearly 10% of the people in Britain were completely in the cities, are not having any work to survive. And the dissatisfaction of unemployment status, the number of people unemployed went on from 35% to 75% during this period. And also the competition of new technology and to the hands, as we were discussing about the main theme of the concept, that is spinning jenny, which was introduced during that period. And women who started to work with the jennies had in a tough competition during that period, because the spinning jenny is a machine, whereas women used to contribute their 100% efforts to make it. It has been an issue of controversy also for a very long period of time. And by 1840s, after, the availability of the work has increased more because of rapid colonization. The building has been increased, the roads are started to be constructed, the railway network has to be expanded. So in order to fulfill all these things, the government, the work to be done, people those are unemployed were being deployed here. So all people started to find their jobs very soon, and in the next very few months to a year, the work requirement got doubled, and by another 30 years again it got again doubled. So that's how the need or the necessity of the work has been increased by the end of the 19th century. So now let's have a brief recap of what is the hand labor and steam power. There was no shortage of hand or human labor during the initial periods of the 18th century and the ending of the 18th century, because the first phase of the 19th century were witnessing the failure of the agriculture. Most of the people from the villages started to move to the cities in search of some job in order to survive, in order to have a piece of bread. So that situations made very good favor for the merchants of America, merchants of Britain, and also the factory owners of Britain and America, which provided there is no at all possibility to get the workers at very less wage earlier. But as the workers are coming in a triumph towards them, as huge number are coming to the cities, they would find very easy for them to employ at very less wages. And also the work was seasonal. There are different categories of seasonal works like the gas work, the breweries, the book binding, the catering, all these things emerging during the time of the Christmas. And there was a passion for the people in UK, especially the groups like aristocrats and the burghers. They would like to prefer more of the handmade goods. That was also one of the reasons why the Americans as well as the Great Britishers are preferring to have more number of skilled people rather than going for upgradation of their mills or factories with the latest machinery, which is really very costly. Instead of that, you can take some few employees or employ some people at very less wages and make them to work very skillfully and sell the product at the double the cost and earn huge profits. That's how they planned very well and executed. The worker's life was really very miserable during this period, and he could not find a job unless and until he have a friend or a kin who is working in the factory or the industry. And the seasonal unemployment means the work will be only for a few months or few days, then the rest of the time he should be unemployed. So the wage increase is a difficult task for them because finding a wage itself is very difficult during that time, and so the life of the workers was really very miserable. During the Napoleonic Wars, the wage was not increased much. Even though it was increased, the cost of the products also was increasing day to day basis, and 10% of the people in Britain were completely poor and no employment was found for them, and the unemployment status increased from 35% to 75% in the later part of the period. And with that, we can understand by the middle of the 19th century, there was a lot of dissatisfaction from the people. Need or search for the jobs was going up higher and higher. People always used to get scared with the implementation of the new technology. Many people will be thrown out of employment. That is the reason why people are very much resistant towards the improvement of the machines into the work of the factories. Anyway, spinning jenny, a machine, was always in controversy with the women's jenny, where it has been a controversial issue for a very long time. By 1840s, the situation started to change and turn up into a new side because lack of roads, lack of infrastructure, everything need to be fulfilled. So they started to build roads, building activities started, railway network laying work started, and also building the large towers, offices, everything gave a chance and the possibility of the unemployed youth to come and join into these categories of activities and at least get their daily bread without asking anybody. And also in the next 30 years, again the requirement got doubled. So that's what we have in hand labor and the steam power.
If you like this video, please give a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel to get more videos on CBSE syllabus.